Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing a pegboard, and that is often done for solving division problems. It can be used for other things, but here today we're going to show how to do some long division with it. So I'm going to write a problem on my paper here. I'm going to use the Montessori colors that correspond to the place values. So I'm using blue for the tens right now, greens for the units. I usually write problems with the children, a little bit to save time, but also for them to see. It's kind of nice to read the numbers out loud together. So we have 4,561 divided by 3. Sometimes I have them repeat that or something. And then to do the work, we need the pegboard that you see in the background. You can see the peg holes. And then we need the pegboard box that I have to the side of me. It's a little bit big for the frame. There's a little bit of an overview of it. This one's not in too bad a shape. It's a little dusty. It gets used a lot, but dust gets in these boxes no matter what you do. The way you do it is, let's talk about that. We look at the divisor first. So the 3, and I usually tell a story with it and everything. Like I sometimes might do a story, something like, if I'm giving this lesson to 2 children, I might say our 3 names, my name and their 2 names. We're walking into the woods one day on a hike, and we found a treasure box, and we broke it open, and we found $4,561. I've got other ones I sort of tell, you know, as a way to practice, they get into it. But what we talk about with division is how we already know the total. That's what's pretty different about division from the other operations. We start by knowing the total. What we need to know what is the fair and equal amount that each person or item in the divisor can get. So if our divisor is 3, we need 3, these are called skittles, kind of like the lawn bowling that you might do in Britain. And we put them up in the corner. Oh, they barely fit on screen. And I like to, maybe I'll scoot a little bit. I like to put them a space apart from each other or so. That's our divisor. And then we lay out the cups. So you can't see right now, but we have different cups that we can put in our pegs into. So we're going to use a green cup for the thousands, a red cup for the hundreds, blue for the tens. We can't quite see all that, but and then another green cup for the units. And then the number 4,561 goes into these tubs to be passed out. So we have 3,000. I like to double count them into my hand and then out, and they kind of make a little clang. 1, 2, 3, 3,000. We have 500. Counting into my hand. I'm gonna double check out of my hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like we have a 6 in the tens place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we have a 1 in the units place. I have kind of a beat up container over here that's got a crack in it. And then we kind of set those off to the side. Now there's a way to kind of keep this all organized and neat so that children can be doing test tube division later on. So you want to kind of go slow with it, be careful. And of course with division, we want to start with the largest place value. So here's 4. We got 4 in the thousands. And so we need to pass that out to the units place. So our 3 people, if you want to say that, each get 1,000. But then we have 1 left over. So it's not fair. We could give it to this person, to the first person, but the other 2 people won't feel like that's fair. It's not fair. So we can't do that. There's a way to share this piece more evenly, and that's to break it down into smaller pieces. So I'm going to trade this in for 10 100 pegs. And usually the children know they're exchanging from other works like the stamp game. So I think I've got 10. Let's check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then I've turned over the thousands tub. Now I can pass out these hundreds very evenly. Sometimes children will purposely spill these out onto the pegboard like such. I don't know if I like that method as much. It probably depends on their motor skills a little bit as to what's best, what will give them the best accuracy. So we just go right in order, making sure that each person gets an even amount. Okay, we don't have any left over from our hundreds. We passed them all out. Let's turn this one over, put it to the side, and bring over our tens. So we're just going right in order towards our units place. We did our thousands, our hundreds. Now we're doing our tens. So I'm going to pass those out. This is really important, this kind of work in Montessori math materials is really important to use the material because it's very easy to teach children and adults how to get the right answer. Virtually anybody can do that. Usually you have access to a calculator on our phones in this age. What we want to do is understand why the answers are what they are. And using a concrete material like this allows people to start doing that, to start really understanding why the answer is what it is. Because when we get into harder math and harder problems in the world, we have to be able to use logic to solve things and understand things on a deeper level. So I finished the tens, and in the units place, I just had 1. I can't give that to our first person. Again, not fair. So that is left over. That's a leftover 1. Sometimes I say, depending on the story, I'll say something like, well, let's donate that to the animal shelter if it's money, or, you know, maybe it's grains of rice in a certain example or something. And then again, what's different about division from the other operations is the answer is not the total. We already knew that, 4,561. The answer is what one of the individuals gets. So I often ask children to try to see if they can read that. In this case, children would often skip the units place. They would not notice that they need a 0 in this answer. So it's important to slow down and check with them. So we've got a 1 in the thousands place. We've got, let's count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the hundreds place. 2 in the tens place, and we can't just skip over the units place. Having nothing there does have to be represented by the 0, so we're going to put a 0 in the units place. We also can't forget about the 1 left over. This is not insignificant. That matters. Everything matters. Math needs to be accurate. So this is where we're going to write our R standing for remainder 1. So that's kind of a basic way to do a problem. I would say, let's talk about this a little bit more though. I'd say getting a 0 in the middle of the problem. Suppose we didn't have any tens, but we did have 1s. Well, again, it's very common for children to skip over that zero and to not put a zero in the tens place. And that's why keeping track of the place values is so super important when you're teaching it and when the children are practicing. So a little bit on the philosophy of this teaching, or I should say the approach of this teaching, is that I tend to do 4 problems with children when I teach this lesson. And yes, I start right away with thousands. They're so used to that from their stamp game and probably checkerboard, maybe bead frame. There's different math materials they've had exposure to. And so I do a problem like that with a story. For 4 of them, I do all the first one. And then I might write a second one, and we kind of do that together. And then I would write 2 problems for them to try, especially if there's a couple children in the lesson, I might write 2 more problems. You kind of have to feel that out a little bit. If there's somebody who's timid, a little more timid with math, or you're running out of time on the week, you don't want a lesson like this to have to be remembered over a weekend. I would not teach this on a Friday. But if you're kind of running out of time for any reason, you might shorten it down to 3. But I would say it'd be really nice if they get to see and participate in trying 3 different problems. Now, every classroom's different, but to keep this recorded, I always write, a little note on it. I just write PEG, because this is Pegboard Division, and then the date, whatever the date is, next to it. And then in my class, they glue in these papers into their notebook so that there's record of it. That way, if their parents or another teacher or somebody else is looking at their work, it's a good reference point. Like, sometimes children say, like, oh, but I want to learn the next thing. They're often so eager. And you can say, ooh, well, we only learned the pegboard 2 weeks ago, which means you've only practiced it a couple times maybe, so you need to practice it more before you get on to the next lesson, or whatever it is. Or the opposite, maybe they've been practicing it for a long time and they've been really successful, and you have that date with their work that we can all see, child, parents, and teacher. And then you say, oh yeah, now's a good time. I see you've been getting them right the last week or 2. It looks like you're ready for the next lesson. So usually 4 problems. And it's really good to go slow and careful with all these things. This is a pegboard I've had for a number of years, and it's held up really well. We have a class usually somewhere in the 30s, low 30s, a number of students, and we have 2 pegboards that are available, because I would say only at any given point, maybe only 2 children know, no, not 2, maybe 10 children in the class know pegboard or are using it at a time, and they're only doing the work a couple times a week, so most of those children are not doing it on any given day. And in a Montessori classroom, you want to, it's okay to have a little bit of a scarcity of resources. So it's okay if they learn how to wait, or how to share, or how to watch for a material to be open up and to do a different work while they wait for it. That sort of thing is really valuable for them to be learning too. So again, this is Pegboard Division. Typically children have learned stamp game division before this. And then this, after this, usually leads into 1-digit division with the test tube. So this is one of the division lessons. I'd say one of the major lessons, and usually it's taught in the 6 to 9 classroom, though you can do squaring and all sorts of other lessons with it as children get older. This is one, I think, the most commonly way that it's used. Certainly in my classroom. Okay, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for the support. If you like this content, please let us know. Thanks for watching.